Hi, in this short tutorial I'm going to show you how to create a procedural sun disk using the World Shader Editor. Let's go to the World Shader Editor. First of all, we're going to go to Shading tab, and we're going to go to World, Background. So we're in the World Shader Editor. I'm going to actually select all my items from the menus because these menus have changed a bit since version 3.4 or now version 3.5 above, excuse me. So let's start out with a frame. Into a frame. Right. So we're going to start a test coordinate. We're going to use the generated one because that gives us plus or minus 1 on all axes for the world editor. We're going to split that off, so all we're going to look at is the z-axis. Now there are several ways that can be done. We could use a math node to search above. I'll do that now. But I'm actually going to switch because I prefer the slightly different method of having a scale sun. So the math node in there. I'm going to go to Z. In here, and we're going to go greater than. Let's eyeball this. 0.9998, I think. This will change depending on whether you're using what resolution you're using or if you what camera lens you're using. So that should have generated us somewhere in the back. Oh, it's touched up. So we're going to use shader. We're going to use a mix shader there. I'm going to duplicate that. That's our background. This is our actual sun. And I'm going to split it. I'm going to split it using the mix shader node. I'm going to take that from there. So somewhere now, here we are. There's our sun disk. And that is a sun disk, as ever is. And that's the very quick way to do it. You can actually make it brighter by changing the this. I normally, for the compositing, I normally have it on about 20 for my sun disk. And that's all there really is to it. What we can do to improve this is actually get rid of that greater than and use a map range. Get rid of the, I'm going to take the Z in there again as before. We're going to go to 9998. If we put this into our factor now we have sun disk, but it's, if we set that down to 1, so you'll see it is goes from dark to light, brightest in the middle. We could use a curve to change the ratio there. I actually find that works quite well as a sun, especially if you're using a sky background. Put that up to 40. The other thing we can do is we can put in vector rotate. So if we put this in here and put the it into Euler, now we can actually move it around. But for the moment, I'm going to leave it there. What we also want to do is invert that, because what we're going to do now is we've got the light. We're going to actually turn this into a sun, because lighting things with the World Shader Editor is not great. It has major problems, especially when it comes to suns. So I'm going to turn that light into a sun. I'm going to give it a strength of 10. Space. I'm going to change the angle a little bit. Let's change it around to a similar size as our sun disk. So I'm about 2 degrees, I suppose, or maybe less. use 2 degrees from now. I'm going to be doing this. The scene I'm going to generate is going to be a space scene. So what we want to do is we want to turn the specular right down, otherwise we'll be able to see round anything we put in. And also we're going to change the sun's location. So I'm going to choose the sun, and we're going to change it to center of our world. With the sun, this doesn't really matter too much, but it's quite important for the rotation. So I'm actually going to make this face directly down, and this, with using 0.99998, is going to be directly up. So now our sun is actually going the right direction. So our cube is being lit by this sun here, and we're seeing this sun here. We can also add an extra mixture shader in here to prevent this sun, or change the reflection properties of the sun so that it doesn't interfere with other things. This is especially important in Eevee, where everything's a bit of a hack anyway. However, it can also be used in Cycles. So what I'm going to be doing is, because I don't want my strength of 40 to be reflected off any objects in the scene, I'm actually going to go in and add a light path, which is under input somewhere. Light path, I'm going to put that down there. I'm going to use isCameraRay. I'm just going to plug into this one here. So this will ensure that the sun is not being reflected in any object. I still want it to be reflected in objects a little bit, but I don't want to be reflected with a strength of 40. So I'm actually going to put that down to a strength of maybe 5. I'm going to plug this into here. So any reflections will be this one. Any direct sight will be this one. Right, now I've done that, I'm going to try and turn this into a bit of a scene. I'm going to stick with Eevee for the moment, but these generally tend to look much better in Cycles. Right, let's turn this into a scene. So I'm going to go into geometry nodes. I'm going to turn this into something else. Let's turn it into a moon. So I'm going to go into mesh. Let's use primitives. I'm going to use an icosphere. I'm going to take that into here. We're going to keep it at 1 meter. And we're doing this in Eevee anyway, so it's all a bit of a hack. Actually, it's another trick that you can use, especially if your computer isn't exactly very powerful. You're going to scene, do isViewport. So I'm going to add a switch. What that's under. Change from geometry to an integer. So if it's in viewport mode, so if it's true, I want 5 subdivisions. If it's false, let's do 10. So if in a render it will be 10. Other times it's going to be 5. There we go. There's our moon to be. Now, I think I might want to give it some actual form. So I'm going to put a texture in. Texture. Geometry. Set position. I'm just keeping it simple for the moment. So that obviously looks terrible. Let's take the scale down a bit. Let's run the moon. Yeah. I'll do. Let's bump up the details. Let's just see this in a bit more detail. Yeah, that looks okay. And let's make sure it has a texture. So material. Set material. Material. Go down. Let's make that quite a lot rougher. Let's make it a bit darker, maybe. Yeah, that'll do. Right, so yeah, that's okay. I might actually take some of the detail off. Let's see how this works. Because if we get close to this, as you'll see, we can see the pattern, and we'll still see that even if it's at 10. I'm not going to turn it all the way up to 10 just for the moment because I don't want my computer to crash. So we're going to go into our shading area again, and we're going to go to Object. We're going to take our asteroid, not a moon anymore, and I'm going to do a texture, another noise texture. I'm going to give that a generated because it's coming from geometry nodes, and I'm going to give that converter bump. So we're going to use a bump map because we're using Eevee. We've already given it actual physical texture using geometry nodes, so I'm going to stick that into height. Back, don't mind. Stick that into the normal. Quick look at it from the other side. That looks terrible. Right, let's. There we go. That should do it. It still doesn't look great, but for this purpose it'll be fine. Let's see where we are with the current position. So I'm going to go to view, camera. Because we're looking straight down at it and everything rotates around the z-axis. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make it 90 degrees on. So let's go to our world shader again. Let's change that to 90. So now our sun will be our sun, and let's sort out our light source. So we're on sun. Because we're in the center, we can use the same coordinates. So if we've reversed the vector rotation, so it's 90 here. So now the sun's coming from the sun. Now, in most space stuff, having the sun where it should be doesn't always work very well. That's another good reason to use light rather than the actual sun disk, because as you can see, we can only see the edge of our asteroid here, but we probably actually want a little bit more. Let's move. So we've moved the sun without moving the sun. Let's go in and take a quick view of it. So let's do a render image. As you can remember, I put the resolution up a bit in geometry nodes, so it might take a few. Oh, there we go. So it's okay. The sun disk looks very, very pale and not very sun-like. So what we need to do is we need to go straight into compositing. Let's move that across there. Let's change that to an image editor. Our viewer node, render result. There we go. Let's use nodes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and add a filter, glare filter. High, make it a fog glow. There we go, one sun. And let's make it bigger glare. There we go. I'm just going to quickly go back. Oh, so it's very white, that sun. I think I'd like to put a bit of color in there. So I'm going to go back to shading. I'm going to put that as a little bit yellow. That should do for now. Go back to our compositing. Let's render again. So it's a bit more yellow. That'll do, I think. So let's just go camera flare in there. Where are we? Shading that node. Another filter, another glare, but this time I'm going to put ghosts. Let's do high again. This is good. I generally like to use a slightly different color. More, let's go 0.7-ish. Looks eventually. Come on. In your own time. Oh, threshold, let's put the threshold up to about 20. There we go. And we want it to be a little fade. We don't want to be too high. Let's go down a bit. Let's do 0.7. Let's see how that figures. Yeah, there we go. So that's our asteroid. Final render, just see what it looks like. If you render. Sometime in your own time, come on, you render. There we go. No, it's okay. It was for a quick hack. It's, I think, reasonable. The asteroid could obviously use a lot more work. You can make it much higher resolution. You could always do all the texture in geometry nodes, but then it starts to fall apart when you get too close. You still see the kind of pixelation effect. It doesn't look great, but I think that's okay for a quick hack. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you very much.